La dignidad es un valor o derecho inviolable e intangible, ya que es algo fundamental. Es un valor inherente al ser humano porque es un ser racional que posee libertad y es capaz de crear cosas. Esto quiere decir que todos los seres humanos podemos modelar, cambiar y mejorar nuestras vidas, ejerciendo nuestra libertad por medio de la toma de decisiones. La dignidad es universal e inviolable sin discriminación. Se basa en el respeto y la estima que una persona tiene de sí misma, y es merecedora de ese respeto por otros, porque todos merecemos respeto sin importar cómo somos. Sin embargo, gracias a los distintos pensamientos de una cultura, la dignidad tiene diferente sentido e interpretación.
En la actualidad, en nuestro país existe muy poca educación acerca de los valores aplicados en la vida diaria y de la ética, ya que, de acuerdo con las encuestas del Instituto Nacional de Estadística y Geografía, es solo el 16% de la población de 15 años y más que tiene algún grado aprobado en educación superior. En México y en todo el mundo existe un sinfín de problemas que degradan a los ciudadanos y sus derechos, tales como la libertad, la equidad, el respeto y la justicia. Uno de los mayores problemas sociales en nuestro país es el machismo, un problema que se origina desde nuestros antepasados prehispánicos que la conquista española reforzó y que actualmente prevalece en México y en muchos otros países. Según el diccionario de la Real Academia Española, el machismo es definido como una actitud de prepotencia de los varones respecto a las mujeres. Es decir, es un tipo de violencia que discrimina a la mujer o todo aquel hombre cuya conducta exhibe alguna característica que suele estar asociado a la feminidad.
En la mayoría de las situaciones, la mujer es víctima del machismo. Aquí mencionamos algunos datos del Instituto Nacional de Estadística y Geografía, donde el 94% de los homicidios contra mujeres carecen de datos suficientes para aclarar si son feminicidios. En 2015 fueron asesinadas 2.383 mujeres. Se conocen los datos del agresor en 6% de los casos, es decir, 140 asesinos. De acuerdo con la encuesta nacional sobre la dinámica de las relaciones en los hogares, elaborada por el INEGI en 2016, 2 de cada 3 mujeres residentes en nuestro país han sido víctimas de algún acto de violencia, ya sea emocional, económica, física, sexual o a través de discriminación en la escuela, el trabajo, el ámbito comunitario, la familia o en su relación de pareja.
Como podemos ver en esta gráfica del INEGI, del Censo Nacional de Procuración de Justicia Estatal, elaborada en el 2016, en las categorías presentadas podemos observar que son más del doble de mujeres que de hombres en México que son víctimas de abusos, tales como violencia familiar, violaciones, acoso sexual, incesto, solo por mencionar algunos. Esta información nos demuestra que México sufre de un gran abuso a la dignidad de la mujer.
México no necesita soluciones ni respuestas, porque ya las tiene. Lo que necesita nuestro país es un cambio de conciencia y de pensamiento, pero para lograr este cambio es necesario de la voluntad personal para que sea más sencillo el lograr la equidad en nuestra sociedad.
My earliest memory was my father bringing me down to my mother's basement, putting up his hands and teaching me how to throw jabs and punches. I was there that he gave me those 3 words: be a man. Stop with the tears, stop with the emotions. If you're gonna be a man in this world, you better learn how to dominate and control people and circumstances. That was the source of tremendous shame. I left that room with tears coming down my eyes, just feeling I wasn't quite man enough. Football became a tremendous place to hide. You can hide inside that helmet, you can hide behind the roar of the crowd. You get to project this facade, this persona, the epitome of what it means to be a man in this culture. I thought if I could manifest this hyper-masculinity, well, somehow that would validate who and what I was. Certainly my father would respect that, to see how powerful, how strong, how tough I was, then give me the love and attention that I desperately wanted. I'd ask every man to think about what age they were, what was the context when someone told you to be a man. That's one of the most destructive phrases in this culture, I believe.
Stop crying.
Don't cry.
Stop with the emotion.
Pick yourself up. Don't be a chump.
Don't be a pussy. Don't let nobody disrespect you.
Be cool and be kind of a dick.
Always keep your mouth shut.
Nobody likes a tattletale.
What a fag.
You little bitch.
Don't let your woman run your life.
Bros come before hoes.
Get laid.
Be a man.
Be a man.
Grow some balls.
So man up.
Man up.
Man up. Man up. Man up. Grow some fucking balls.
Act like a man.
Be a man.
If you walk onto any playground in America where there's a bunch of boys happily playing, you can start a fight by asking one question. Who's a sissy around here? And two boys will go at it. Oh, he is, and they could have a fight. Or all of the boys will go, oh, he is. And that boy will either have to fight them or run home crying. That idea of being seen as weak, as a sissy in the eyes of other guys starts in our earliest moments of boyhood. And it follows us all the way through our lives, proving to other guys that we're not girls, that we're not women, that we're not gay. We've constructed an idea of masculinity in the United States that doesn't give young boys a way to feel secure in their masculinity, so we make them go prove it all the time.
If I can man up, why step down from that, you feel me?
Masculinity is not organic. It's reactive. It's not something that just develops. It's a rejection of everything that is feminine.
Sometimes my friends act like they're tough when I feel like they're not.
From the beginning, we're taught as boys to lock down our emotions. We can't talk about being afraid. We can't talk about being hurt. We could talk about being pissed off. We could talk about being angry. We can't talk about being sad.
If you never cry, then you have all these feelings stuffed up inside of you, and then you can't get them out.
We put them on that trajectory through our popular culture, through our parenting styles, through our educational styles, and through assumptions about natural manhood and maleness that we pass along that are incredibly insulting and damaging. And then there's a whole social system that polices them through this low level of threat from other men if they're not man enough.
Today we're going to get into how we learned masculinity as children, where we learned it from, who taught it to us. And I'm just going to ask some of you guys to shout out the ideas that you had on it from your childhood.
In my household, we don't cry.
Showing emotion is like you're weak.
If you hurt, just hold it in.
No tattletelling. Fight back.
You know, everything was surrounded around money.
Be the best. Go for the triple instead of the double.
It was okay to be a womanizer.
A man has to be dominant and in charge and has control. You know, a man does everything to the extreme. Never back down from anything.
A man used violence to solve problems.
The first lie every boy learns in America is we associate masculinity with athletic ability, size, strength, or some kind of skill set.
I've always felt the pressure of you need to be buff, you need to be masculine, you have to have a six-pack.
Those boys that can catch it down and out or hit the hanging curve are elevated.
I want to play football, basketball, one of the sports, have fun doing it, make some money, like one of them TV type lives.
They're set up for a tremendous failure and frustration in life because being a man doesn't have a single thing to do with athletic ability. You think about all the other boys on that playground. They don't just want to play sports. They want to do computers or music or drama or debate.
This past month, I took part in my first theater production. Like now I'm looking back like, oh, I wish I had taken part in that throughout high school. I don't know, I guess I didn't because it was something taboo. You just weren't supposed to do it.
Second lie every boy learns is that we associate masculinity with economic success.
My name is Jordan Belfort. The year I turned 26, I made $49 million, which really pissed me off because it was $3 shy of $1 million a week.
You know, it's been said that comparison is the thief of all happiness. So if you're building your sense of masculinity based on power, possessions, there's always going to be someone that has more. That leads to an incredibly empty life of striving for things at the expense of what's really important in life.
I've had 8-year-old kids sit on my couch 8-year-old boys, and I'll say, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And they'll say, a venture capitalist. There are so many things wrong with that I hardly know where to start. The extent to which he comes in and has already been programmed, he is going to have very limited options in his life, and they will never feel authentically like his own.
And then the third criteria is a culture. We associate sexual conquest with masculinity.
Seek the free! This man is a legend with the ladies.
I can only imagine.
I found the top 5 hottest girlfriends of Derek Jeter. Men everywhere, we all salute you.
Associating that with masculinity is so dehumanizing.
You tapped that ass, didn't you? Tell the truth. You know you tapped that ass. You put it in the back seat, bam, code X.
But man, I got a wife.
You got a dick. You do have a dick, don't you?
Well, those words are designed to keep boys silent, to keep them conforming to the construct.
My grandfather is very much that alpha male type. He's a former military drill sergeant, good old boy from the South, was able to go out in the world and sort of pull himself up by his bootstraps and very much fulfill sort of the American dream in that regard. Granted, he was a white male in a particular time, which gave him access to that success, even if he was poor to begin with. I grew up with my grandfather's voice, hearing you need to be bigger, stronger, faster. So I was always having to prove myself and never succeeding. That made me very insecure and not feeling like I was good enough. When I was a kid, I had long blonde hair, I had a very high voice. I wasn't a cool kid. I was this awkward little kid. I sang in choir, I played clarinet in the band, but I also played baseball and football and basketball, and got to do all those different things and express myself in all sorts of different ways. Things changed around middle school. I started to get bullied and made fun of. You could call it a fag or a pussy or a sissy or a wuss, and that's when the social pressures really kicked in. I cut my long hair off, changed the way I dressed, I dropped my voice. I don't even know when my voice naturally broke. I have no idea because I forced it low. I played more sports and joined all the teams. I dated the head cheerleader and distanced myself from people who were less masculine than me. I had a friend who didn't play sports, was kind of effeminate. He was being picked on even more than I was. And instead of me sort of staying by his side and being his friend, I remember, to some degree, making the decision to push myself to not be friends with him anymore, to not go to his house, and I remember him asking me why I did that. And I couldn't tell him, I didn't know what to tell him at the time. School was a training ground for me to learn how to perform masculinity, to perform to be one of the guys.
Throughout most of history, there's been this belief that men and women are fundamentally different creatures, and it probably begins with the Bible. Sex is a biological term. It refers to which chromosomes you have. 2X is female, X and Y is male. Gender is a social construct. These are expressions of masculinity or femininity, and both of these are spectrums, and they overlap.
Boys and girls are far more human and far more the same than they are different. If you gave 50,000 psychological tests to girls, it would fall out on a bell-shaped curve. If you gave the same 50,000 psychological tests to boys, it would fall out on a boy bell-shaped curve. If you superimposed them, they'd be 90% overlapping. You've got the shoulders that stick out on either side, and those are very often the traits that feed into our stereotypes.
People make the assumption that because the brain is biological, that any sex difference in the brain must be hardwired. But the brain is plastic. The brain changes as a result of experience.
You go through a process called proliferation and pruning, which is that you make a whole bunch of brain connections, and the ones that you use are strengthened, and the ones that you don't use die back.
Whether it's empathy or aggression or spatial ability or verbal ability, things that a child spends their time on, that's what they're going to be good at. parents from even before a child is born. Start thinking about the child differently, they decorate the room differently, they buy different clothes. So this notion that there is such a thing as gender-neutral rearing or that parents are not responsible for gender differences is a psychological impossibility.
We are becoming much more bifurcated in terms of hypermasculinity and hyperfemininity. Girls' products have become much pinker and boys' products have become much more camo and much more violent. And it's not just in the toys, but it's also in television programming and movies. This hypermasculinization and hyperfeminization reflect cultural tension and fear about the fact that gender is socially constructed. And we respond in ways to try to organize and simplify the world that actually end up simplifying it to such a great extent that it puts pressure on young men and young women to fit into those boxes.
You gotta go in there and you gotta be tough, but you can't be sissying out.
By the time a boy is 5 years old, he's pretty much taught that it's not okay to cry in public. He may still do it, but the expectation is by the time he's 10 that he's perfected it. And if he's 12 and he's still crying in public, there's a problem.
Oh, my dear God. Are you one of those single-tear people?
You are a worthless pansy ass who is now weeping and slobbering like a 9-year-old girl.
Boys are not encouraged to talk about any kind of pain with anyone else. And when they do talk about pain, fathers particularly, but mothers also, tend to focus more on how to solve that or what they're going to do or their actions.
Hit me. Hit me. Come on. Come on. Come on, son. Come on. Son, left.
They're learning how is it possible for them as boys to be in the world and to engage in their relationships and to behave in ways that will be considered socially acceptable. And in learning to accommodate to those ideals, they're learning to conceal or just downplay qualities that are traditionally associated with girls and women.
Mothers are told that if they hold a boy too closely, they're hurting his development. You're making him a mama's boy.
You want to be a flying monkey mama's boy snitch? Or do you want to be a man?
Now, being a mama's girl or daddy's little girl, that's wonderful. But a mama's boy? It means somehow he's soft.
Have a great day, sweetie pie.
We're concerned that our child is going to be ridiculed. We're concerned that our son will be the target of violence. And so we give him what we think he needs in order to avoid that.
Mario, football players don't cry. What? Football players don't cry.
The reason men are less likely to show empathy, less likely to show vulnerability, less likely to bring up children in that kind of way, is that they've been socialized into this.
Principios del siglo XXI en España. Una media de 70 mujeres al año son asesinadas por sus parejas. Las estadísticas oficiales dicen que un 12,5% de las mujeres mayores de 16 años sufre violencia física o sexual. Y que 1 de cada 4 adolescentes padece violencia psicológica. ¿Por qué una buena parte de los adolescentes y jóvenes que ha crecido en la igualdad de derechos para hombres y mujeres no identifica las conductas machistas? ¿Qué peso tienen aún los estereotipos de género? ¿O el mito del amor romántico? ¿Cómo se está resolviendo la división sexual del trabajo? ¿Quién está asumiendo la responsabilidad de las tareas domésticas y los cuidados? ¿Qué tipo de machismo nos queda? ¿Es un machismo que no se ve o que quizá no sabemos ver?
El machismo se ve cada día, en cada momento, en cada lugar y en cada esquina. Lo que ocurre es que no lo identificamos como machismo. Hemos aprendido a vivir, a convivir con él y solamente cuestionamos determinadas expresiones cuando consideramos en este momento que son excesivas. Lo que hoy cuestionamos sin ninguna duda hace unos años era completamente normal.
En nuestro país, formando parte de Europa, por lo tanto de Occidente, las libertades elementales y básicas de las ciudadanas están aseguradas. Otra cosa es que en el terreno de las costumbres todavía no estén impedidas actividades, maneras de juzgar, modos de presentarse, intromisiones constantes en la libertad y en la vida de las mujeres.
Los significados y los sentimientos, las emociones, son aspectos mucho más difíciles de cambiar. Y por lo tanto, cuando nos sorprendemos de que los adolescentes actuales reproduzcan ese tipo de estereotipos y de relaciones, quizás que somos demasiado optimistas con lo que ya hemos cambiado.
Es una sociedad machista, pero no una sociedad que afirme ni en las leyes ni en las ideas que los hombres son superiores a las mujeres. Entonces, ¿cómo es machista esta sociedad? Me gustaría poner algún ejemplo. Es machista o sexista porque es una sociedad en la que se vuelca en formar de manera distinta a los niños y a las niñas. Y esto lo hace con la esperanza, con la certeza de que luego vayan a ocupar funciones distintas en la sociedad y vayan a dar sentidos distintos a sus vidas.
Cuando analizamos qué pasa y cómo vive la población y qué pasa en la vida cotidiana, nos damos cuenta, y las evidencias empíricas todas nos indican lo mismo, que existe desigualdad entre los hombres y las mujeres, y por lo tanto esta desigualdad lo que nos sitúa es en un contexto de pseudoigualdad, ¿no? Hay una igualdad de discurso pero no de práctica.